She was just a maid, overlooked by the world. He was a wealthy CEO, trapped in a fake relationship. No one believed their paths could cross, but when honesty, courage, and love came together, the unexpected happened. This is the story of Davina and Elliot, a story that will make you believe in true love and the dignity of hard work. Davina adjusted the neatly folded curtains in the spacious living room of the mansion. The scent of fresh lilies filled the air, but her heart was far from calm. She had graduated with top honors in business administration 2 years ago, yet every job application she sent ended with the same rejection email. "We regret to inform you that we cannot proceed with your application. You are overqualified for this role." It was painful, but Davina refused to depend on anyone. She believed dignity was found in work, no matter the title. So when the opportunity came to work as a live-in maid for a wealthy businessman named Elliot, she accepted. It wasn't her dream job, but it was honest. Elliot was everything Davina never expected in a boss. Tall, composed, and kind-hearted, he treated his staff with respect. He often tested people, though, offering tips to see if they would hide or misuse money, or giving small tasks to check their honesty. Davina, without even knowing, passed every test. But Elliot wasn't without flaws in his world. His girlfriend, Rachel, was strikingly beautiful, the type of woman who always turned heads. Yet beneath her charming smile was a sharp tongue that lashed out whenever Elliot wasn't home. She criticized Davina's cooking, mocked her plain dresses, and often belittled her education. Graduated with honors, yet cleaning flaws. Rachel sneered one afternoon, tossing her handbag carelessly on the sofa. "Pathetic. If you had real value, someone would have hired you by now." Davina bit her tongue. She had promised herself she would never complain to Elliot about Rachel's cruelty. She didn't want to be seen as a troublemaker, nor did she want to ruin their relationship. Still, there were moments when Elliot noticed small things. The way Davina quietly endured insults without ever retaliating, the way she never took more than she was given, and how diligently she managed the household. It stirred something in him, admiration, though he never voiced it. One evening, as Elliot returned from work, he found Davina setting dinner on the table. She wore her usual simple gown, her hair tied back neatly. "Thank you, Davina," he said warmly, his eyes lingering on her a second longer than usual. She bowed slightly, her cheeks warming, and hurried away before she betrayed her thoughts. Because, unknown to Elliot, Davina's heart had begun to betray her. The respect she had for him was growing into something more, a quiet affection she tried desperately to hide. She told herself it was foolish. He is my boss, he has a girlfriend, and I am just a maid. But sometimes the heart doesn't obey reason. And Davina was slowly learning that truth. The weekend was supposed to be peaceful. Elliot had invited Rachel to spend more days at his mansion, believing that time together would strengthen their relationship. To outsiders, she was the perfect girlfriend. Elegant, fashionable, and endlessly charming. But Davina, working silently in the background, saw the truth. When Elliot was around, Rachel transformed into a gentle, graceful woman who smiled sweetly at him and praised even the smallest gestures. "Oh, Elliot, you're the most thoughtful man," she would coo as he poured her a glass of wine. The moment Elliot stepped out for business calls or meetings, her mask slipped. "Davina," she snapped one morning, her voice sharp as a knife. "Why is the floor still wet? Do you want me to slip and embarrass myself?" Davina quickly bent down, drying the tiles with a cloth. "I'm sorry. I was just about to." "Just about to? Excuses." Rachel scoffed, arms folded. "No wonder you're stuck as a maid. All that book knowledge. But look at you, cleaning up after people like me." The words stung, but Davina said nothing. She had learned that silence was her shield. Still, every insult carved deeper into her heart. That evening, Elliot returned earlier than usual. He noticed Rachel sitting gracefully on the sofa, her tone suddenly sweet as honey. "Darling, you're home early," she said, rising to kiss his cheek. Davina, who was quietly arranging the bookshelf, caught Elliot's eyes for a brief second. She quickly looked away, hiding the flicker of pain in her gaze. Later that night, Elliot called his private investigator. For months, a quiet suspicion had been gnawing at him. Rachel's sudden demands for expensive gifts, her constant excuses when he suggested serious future plans. They didn't sit right. "Keep watching her," Elliot said firmly. "Something isn't adding up." Meanwhile, Davina wrestled with a storm inside her. She respected Elliot too much to interfere, yet it was painful to see how blind he seemed to Rachel's true nature. Still, she chose silence. She wasn't the type to ruin another's relationship, no matter the truth. But fate has a way of forcing choices. One late afternoon, as Davina carried fresh laundry upstairs, she paused when she heard Rachel's voice from the master bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. Rachel was on the phone, her tone sharp and careless. "Yes, I know he's generous, but I'll get more out of him soon. Elliot thinks I love him. Please. He's just my golden ticket. Once I secure enough, I'm gone." Davina froze, her heart racing. She had just stumbled on a truth too dangerous to ignore. Should she tell Elliot and risk being seen as jealous or meddling? Or should she remain silent and watch him sink deeper into deception? Her conscience weighed heavily, and for the first time, Davina realized her feelings for Elliot weren't just affection. They were love. But how could a maid confess such a thing? Sleep did not come easily to Davina that night. The word she overheard from Rachel's phone call kept circling in her head like a heavy burden. "He's just my golden ticket. Once I secure enough, I'm gone." Davina lay awake in her small maid's quarters, staring at the ceiling. Her conscience burned. If Elliot was her brother, wouldn't she want someone to tell him? If he was her friend, wouldn't she speak? Yet, she was afraid. Who was she to meddle in her boss's love life? Would Elliot even believe her? Or would he think she was trying to sow discord because she secretly loved him? The truth was dangerous, both to Rachel and to her. The next morning, Davina tried to act normal. She greeted Elliot respectfully, served his breakfast, and quietly cleared the table. But Elliot, ever observant, noticed the worry on her face. "You've been quiet lately," he said, looking at her as she set his coffee cup down. "Is something wrong?" Davina forced a smile. "No, sir. Everything's fine." But everything was not fine. Rachel had arrived again, glowing in a new designer dress. She flung her handbag onto the couch and waved her nails dramatically. "Elliot, darling, we must talk about that new villa in Dubai. You know I've always dreamed of having a place there." Elliot sighed, hiding his irritation. He loved giving, but Rachel's appetite was endless. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught Davina's expression, a flicker of sadness, quickly masked by her downcast gaze. Later that afternoon, while Elliot was away at the office, Rachel lashed out again. She barked at Davina. "Why is my dress not pressed properly? Do you want me to look cheap? Honestly, you're useless. Elliot should fire you and get someone with sense." Davina held back tears. She wanted to scream, "If only he knew the truth about you." But instead, she bowed her head. "I'll fix it." That evening, as she prepared Elliot's study for his return, her heart could no longer contain the weight. She knew she had to speak, not because she wanted Elliot for herself, but because she could not watch him suffer under a lie. When Elliot came home, Davina stood waiting nervously by the study door. Her hands trembled as she clutched her apron. "Sir," she began softly, her voice shaking. I need to tell you something. Please, don't misunderstand me." Elliot put down his briefcase, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "Go on, Davina." She took a deep breath. "I overheard Rachel yesterday. She was on the phone, and she said things that broke my heart. She doesn't love you, sir. She said you're only her golden ticket, and once she gets enough from you, she'll leave." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "I didn't want to say anything because it's not my place, but I can't bear to see you deceived." For a long moment, Elliot was silent, his expression unreadable. Finally, He said simply, "Thank you, Davina. I already suspected something, but hearing it from you confirms what I needed to know." Davina lowered her eyes, relieved yet terrified. She had spoken the truth, but in doing so, she had opened the door to another truth she had been hiding even longer, her feelings. And now, her heart raced with one question: should she confess? Elliot sat in his study long after Davina left, the silence pressing heavily on his chest. Her trembling voice still echoed in his mind. "She doesn't love you, sir. You're only her golden ticket." He had hoped she was wrong. But deep down, he knew Davina's words were not born of malice. They carried the weight of sincerity. The next morning, Elliot called his private investigator, a man he had quietly hired weeks before when doubts about Rachel first began to gnaw at him. "Follow her movements closely," Elliot instructed firmly. "I want to know the truth, no matter how painful." The truth arrived faster than he expected. Within 3 days, the investigator returned with photographs, recordings, and detailed reports. Rachel had been meeting with another man in secret, a wealthy investor. On the recordings, she laughed cruelly, boasting that Elliot was her easiest catch. "He showers me with money," she bragged to her companion, "and he thinks it's love. Once I get what I want, I'll be gone before he knows it." Elliot's chest tightened as he listened. Anger, disappointment, and a deep sadness washed over him. But above all, he felt a strange sense of relief. The mask was finally off. That evening, Rachel waltzed into the mansion, her perfume strong, her smile wide. "Darling," she purred, throwing her arms around him. "I saw the most exquisite necklace today. You must buy it for me. It would make me so happy." Elliot studied her for a long moment, then laid the photographs and recordings on the table. "Perhaps this necklace will impress your other admirer more than me." Rachel's smile faltered. Her eyes darted to the evidence. What is this?" she stammered. "The truth," Elliot replied, his voice calm but firm. "You used me, Rachel. You never loved me. And now, I know for certain." Rachel's face hardened. "This isn't true, Elliot. These pictures, these recordings, they are fake. Who gave them to you? Someone's trying to destroy us." Elliot's expression didn't change. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through her excuses. "No one is destroying us, Rachel. You did that yourself. The evidence speaks for itself." Rachel froze, searching his face for any sign of weakness. But there was none. Elliot had made up his mind. Her voice rose with desperation. "You can't do this to me. After everything I've given up." "What you gave up," Elliot interrupted coldly, "was love, and what you chose was greed." He stood, his presence commanding. "Pack your things, Rachel. This chapter of my life is over." For the first time, Rachel had no clever reply. She grabbed her handbag, her face pale with fury, and stormed out of the mansion. The silence that followed was heavy, but for Elliot, it was also freeing. He poured himself a glass of water, staring out the window. His heart was bruised, yes, but not broken. Behind the pain, there was gratitude. Gratitude that he had been spared a future built on lies. Gratitude that someone had cared enough to let him see the truth. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet warmth flickered, the thought of Davina, the maid who asked for nothing, but gave everything. The mansion felt unusually quiet after Rachel's departure. For Elliot, the silence was both a balm and a burden. He spent long hours in his study, his thoughts tangled, disappointment in Rachel, relief at being free, and an unshakable awareness of someone else who had stood by him all along. That night, Elliot walked through the garden, his mind heavy. He paused near the fountain, staring at the moon's reflection in the water. He remembered Davina's soft gaze, her quiet concern, her trembling voice when she had once tried to warn him. She was right, he whispered to himself. Meanwhile, Davina had been avoiding him since the breakup. She carried on with her duties silently, but her heart wrestled with guilt. She had spoken the truth, but had she also crossed a line? Had she overstepped her place as a maid? One evening, fate intervened. Davina was carrying fresh linens to Elliot's study when the power suddenly went out. The entire mansion plunged into darkness. She let out a small gasp. "Davina!" Elliot's deep voice called from the study. "Why, yes, sir," she answered, her hands trembling as she tried to steady the lamp she carried. "Come here. Stay until the lights return." His tone was calm, but there was something softer beneath it. She stepped inside, the flickering glow of the lamp casting gentle shadows across his face. Elliot looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, Davina felt the weight of his eyes. "You've been quiet these past days," Elliot said after a long pause. "Why?" Her breath caught. I didn't want you to think I meddled where I shouldn't have." Elliot's lips curved faintly, though his eyes remained serious. "Davina, you spoke the truth. And because of that, I was spared a lifetime of lies." The sincerity in his voice nearly undid her. Her chest tightened, and before she could stop herself, the words spilled out. "I have to tell you something, sir." Her voice trembled. She clutched the linens against her chest. "I never meant to come between you and Miss Rachel, but the reason it hurt me so much to see you with her is because," she hesitated, her eyes glistening with tears, "because I love you." The words hung in the air like a fragile thread. Elliot's breath caught. His eyes searched haze, as though making sure he had heard right. Davina's cheeks burned. She lowered her gaze quickly, ashamed. "Forgive me, sir. I shouldn't have said that. I know I'm just a maid, and you deserve so much more than—" "Davina!" His voice was firm but gentle, cutting through her spiral of self-blame. She froze, her heart pounding. Slowly, Elliot reached out, lifting her chin so their eyes met again. "You think love is measured by wealth or titles." His voice was low, earnest. "Rachel chased everything money could buy, yet she never had what truly mattered, a heart that could love. You, Davina, you've shown me more loyalty, kindness, and truth than anyone ever has." Tears welled in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. She had never imagined hearing such words from him. The lights flickered back on, flooding the study with brightness. But neither of them moved. In that moment, it felt as though time itself had stopped. Elliot whispered, almost to himself, "Maybe the love I've been searching for has been right in front of me all along." Davina's lips parted, her heart racing. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. The mansion felt different after that night in the study. Davina went about her duties as she always had, but her heart was no longer burdened by secrets. She had spoken her truth, and instead of rejection, Elliot had given her something far greater, hope. Elliot, too, found himself looking at her differently. It wasn't sudden infatuation, but a quiet realization that kept growing each day. He noticed the way her smile softened a room, how her words carried sincerity, how she never once treated him as a bank of wealth but as a man of flesh and flaws. One evening, Elliot returned home earlier than usual. He found Davina in the garden, trimming the roses. She looked up, startled, when he approached. "Sir, welcome back," she said, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. "Elliot," he corrected gently. "At least when it's just us." Her cheeks flushed. "Yes, Elliot." For a while, they walked side by side in silence, the scent of roses filling the air. Finally, Elliot spoke, his tone steady. "Davina, you've given me something I can't ignore, truth when others fed me lies. You've reminded me what love should feel like, honest, patient, and kind. I don't want to pretend I don't see you anymore." Davina's heart pounded. She kept her gaze on the roses, afraid her emotions would betray her. "I never expected you to say this," she whispered. "I only wanted to be honest." He turned to her fully, his voice low. "And that honesty saved me." For a long moment, their eyes held each other's, the silence saying more than words ever could. The next morning, Elliot found Davina preparing his breakfast. He watched her carefully lay out the plates, every movement filled with care. When she finished, he spoke softly but firmly. "Davina, You don't belong in the shadows of this house. You're educated, capable, and far too gifted to be confined to these walls. I want you to work at my company. Start as my assistant. Learn, grow, and show the world the woman I already see. Her hands froze mid-motion. She turned slowly, tears filling her eyes. Elliot, I never imagined. Don't imagine, he said with a faint smile. Live it. You deserve more than you've been given. Davina's lips trembled, but then a radiant smile broke through her tears. Yes, she whispered. I'll do it. At that moment, she wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a woman stepping into a future she had only dared to dream, by his side. Davina's first day at Elliot's company was unlike anything she had experienced. The glass building towered above her, its polished surface reflecting the morning sun. She clutched her small handbag, nerves twisting in her stomach. Inside, Elliot introduced her to the staff. This is Miss Davina. She'll be working as my personal assistant from today. His voice carried authority, but there was a quiet pride beneath it. Some employees exchanged curious glances. A maid turned assistant. It was unusual, but Elliot's word was final. Davina sat at her new desk outside his office, her heart racing. She wanted to prove herself, not because of Elliot, but because she needed to know she deserved this chance. She threw herself into the work, scheduling meetings, organizing files, and handling calls. By the end of the day, her head spun, but she had managed. Elliot appeared at her desk, his expression unreadable. Walk with me, he said. They strolled through the company's rooftop garden, the city skyline glowing in the evening light. Davina's hands fidgeted at her side. I hope I did well today, she murmured. You did more than well, Elliot replied, his voice firm. You handled things some assistants with years of experience would have struggled with. I knew you could do this. Her chest warmed at his words. Thank you, Elliot. They paused by the railing, the cool breeze brushing past them. For a long moment, neither spoke. The unspoken feelings between them hung in the air, growing stronger each day. Finally, Elliot turned toward her, his gaze intense. Davina, I don't want you to ever doubt yourself. You're not here because of pity or because of me. You're here because you earned it. And, his voice softened, because you've become someone I can't imagine my life without. Davina's breath caught. She looked away, blinking back tears. Sometimes I still feel like I don't belong, but when you say that, it gives me strength. Elliot's hand brushed lightly against hers, a touch so fleeting it felt like a secret. You belong more than you know. The moment lingered, romance unspoken, yet undeniable. Davina felt her heart soar. She wasn't just the maid anymore. She was a woman finding love, and at the same time, finding her place in the world. Weeks passed, and the once unspoken feelings between Elliot and Davina blossomed into something neither could hide. What had begun as quiet glances in the mansion had grown into gentle conversations in his office, shared laughter during late evenings, and a bond that deepened with each passing day. Elliot no longer called her Miss Davina with formality. Now, her name left his lips like a promise. When he reached for her hand, she let her fingers linger in his, warmth sparking between them. One evening, as the sun dipped low and golden light filled the study, Elliot closed the last file on his desk. Davina, he said, standing close, his eyes steady, you've given me something I never thought I'd find, a love that feels true. Her breath trembled, but her smile was radiant. And you've given me the courage to believe I'm worthy of it. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time, their lips met in a tender kiss, not rushed, not uncertain, but filled with quiet certainty. Their story, once shadowed by doubt, had found its perfect bloom. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more touching love stories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to know.